summary statement perhaps about the healing and the atonement. I talked to you about healing and the atonement. Do you have any questions? You understand that Jesus does not promise to heal if you have enough faith. That you do not try to increase your faith as a lever. That if you can do enough faith, God has to do what you ask. That's unbiblical. But it is God's will to heal many times. That's what makes that difficult. Says the teaching that healing is in the atonement and it's always God's will to heal. And if you only have enough faith, He will do it. But is wrong. That's unbiblical. The reverse, the other extreme is, well, then let's not make a big deal about healing. Let's not have healing services. Let's not pray for healing. We don't know for sure. Well, I think that's foolish too. Don't you know? You have to know something for sure. If there's a possibility, go for it. Yeah? So people typically want everything either no or yes, clear cut. They don't like the problems of maybe God's will, may not be God's will. So if there's no questions on that, I just assume everything is clear. Excuse me. Don't know why I have a frog here. How to predict a happy marriage. You read that several days ago in your homework, and I haven't commented on it. That was due on the 14th. I found this information very helpful. I think it's relevant. Leslie, I wanted to call him Thoreau, but I've heard him call himself Parrot. So I'm going to call him Parrot. I would like the French pronunciation, but if he wants to be Pollywalla Cracker Guy, that's fine. He can be a parrot if he wants to. He says rightly, there's nothing about a wedding that changes basic personality structure. If change does occur after the wedding, it's most likely to be a reverting to the real self, which has been suppressed or controlled during courtship. So I want to remind you that dating, or doesn't matter what you call it, courtship, that's the term. I don't believe in, I kiss dating goodbye. I'm into courtship. Call it what you will. Generally, in our culture, you try to get acquainted before you marry. And so I'm talking about the mechanism for getting acquainted. So if you don't like the word dating, you don't like the word courtship, call it bibbidi-bobbidi-boo. It's called getting acquainted. Don't marry somebody you don't know, unless you have nasty surprises. Is that fair? So call it what you will. How do you get acquainted and find out if somebody is dating material? Because dating material should be marriage material. Don't date people who you would not consider married. Did you hear that? You never date people that you would not consider married. Now, you can be friends, but that's tough. If you're both single, typically you go out with someone, one or of the two people typically read more into it than the other person means to have read into it. If one person simply wants, let's go places, do things, friendship, no emotional attachment involved. Typically, that's a guy's scenario. And I want to say something to you. If you're going to be parents, tell your boys that there's no such thing. You get up into the teens as being best buddies without being any emotional attachment by somebody, usually the girl. And if you want to hang around, see, I wasn't told this. I had no sisters. I went to Bible college. And I was friends with the girls. I find girls to be very nice people. I enjoyed, there's some that aren't, but I enjoyed the nice ones. I enjoyed hanging around with the ones that enjoyed me hanging around with them. I mean, don't you enjoy being with people who enjoy being with you? I mean, that's just life. And what I did not understand, at least I don't think I did, trying to look back, who knows what all was going through my head, but I don't believe I understood what I'm trying to tell you now, is that it's almost impossible for a guy to be buddies with a girl like he can be buddies with other guys without the girl reading more into it or wondering what is your intention, what, you know. So do guys, you hear this? You just can't be buddies with a girl like you can be buddies with a guy. I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule, but that's the norm. Without doing damage to the girl. You say, I never said anything, I never hinted, I never. Well, they can't help but have some expectations and wondering. If the girl has enough intelligence and courage to go together, they'll ask sooner or later. They'll probe. They'll put feelers out to find out what's going on. And so, guys, just understand, I was called in by the school administration. There was a family of girls, 4 girls. Betty, Stella, Rebecca, and Vivian. They were lovely girls. I still remember, huh? Their parents were there in the neighborhood. I'm from California. I have to stay at Thanksgiving time when everybody else flies home. I'm poor. So they invite me up to their place for Thanksgiving. Well, number 1, I liked the Thanksgiving. Number 2, I loved being around these lovely girls. They were just fun. And they liked me, and I liked them, and they said I reminded them of their brother who was gone and married and all this kind of stuff. So I thought it was just a loving relationship of best friends. And the school authorities saw me hanging around these girls and called me in and said, Brian, you're going to have to choose one. And that shocked the fire out of me. I've got a girlfriend at home. These aren't my girlfriends. These are girls who are friends. I enjoy being with them. They enjoy seemingly me being with them. I love it. They said, we know. We can tell you love it. It really upset me. I felt wrongly accused. I felt abused. I felt like but I was not mature enough. I didn't have enough worldly wisdom to know what they were saying was basically true. And I'm trying to tell you something. You can reject it like I did and be a fool and hurt people. And unbeknownst to me, one of those girls evidently did really like me more than I intended for her to. And I ended up unknowingly hurting her because I continued having my girlfriend in California. And is it ever right to hurt someone and do damage to people's emotions, even ignorantly, because you're a fool? Never right. I don't look back and smile. I look back and think, that's unfortunate. I wished I'd been teachable, could have had the ability to receive what the faculty were trying to tell me, other than feeling misjudged, wrongly treated, and that's not me, I'm not trying, you know. I didn't have ears to hear, I didn't have any ability to relate to what they were trying to say to me. But I've seen it happen. Now let me say this to you. Listen to this. You get married. Now hear me, students. When you get married, you will have friends. And the devil will try to make one of you be more attached and enjoy one of the friends more than you ought to. That's what the devil specializes in. And when there begins to become either magic or chemistry, or in this day and age, between women or between men, homosexual attractions are very common these days. Family I pastored, their boy got married, 3 children, left his wife for another man. Blew parents' mind, broke their heart, destroyed the woman, his wife. He loved another guy more than he loved his wife. Now, who would have dreamed that that little boy that was in arms would grow up and become homosexual for whatever causes and do that? Nobody but the devil. The devil. And there's no excuse for wrong choices. You might not control, you might have nothing to do about who you're attracted to. You can be attracted to the same sex without it being sinful. There's just something about you, for whatever reason, that you're attracted to them. You hear what I'm saying? It's never right to do wrong, no matter how you're wired. And don't ever tell anybody that if you really get right with God, God will take away certain desires. Because when I got right with God, God never took away the desire for the opposite sex. And there are lots of people who are told, if you really get right with God, God will take away the desire for the same sex. That's not necessarily so at all. What God does, He gives you and I grace to say no to wrong and yes to right. So I have not grown up like my best friend in Bible college who confided the senior years. Senior year in college. We're both. I'm a senior, he's a junior. We're really good buddies. I had no clue he'd been saved out of a life of homosexuality. We traveled in choir together. We got paired up accidentally. You know, just you're assigned, you and you go to so-and-so's house. When you get there, they've got only a certain amount of sleeping, and they've got this double bed, and can you 2 guys share that bed? Well, sure, no problem. So I slept in the same bed with him. He never attacked me. He never tried to seduce me. He never touched me. I had no clue. I wasn't going to do that to him either. I mean, I had no desire in my head. I never had any thought that he might have desire in his head. It wasn't in my realm that he's my buddy. He's never come on to me. And then after all these events, he tells me, and I don't know what motivated, I guess he needed to. Sometimes you need a friend that you can trust. He knew I wasn't a talker. I would never tell anybody. I never even told my wife. She didn't even know. After I married her, and he's remained my friend. That he was saved out of homosexuality, and he just wished that some of these guys, when they came back from the shower and what all, wouldn't be so immodest out in public. Well, the guys were thinking, well, there's no girls around, so it doesn't matter. This is just guys. Nobody's thinking, well, there can be people here with homosexual weaknesses and propensities that I need to be careful of my fellow guy as well as a fellow girl. You all hear me? Well, I hadn't entered my head. I grew up that, hey, just us guys, no big deal. Honesty is when you have opposite sex, but that's not true. So he got married. He's a pastor. I've never asked him, none of my business. I'm not poking my nose in. But I assume that God never took away the interest in the same sex. God just helped him to be able to develop interest in the opposite sex and loving the opposite sex. And quite frankly, probably he's still susceptible if he allowed himself to the same sex, but he finds the grace of God sufficient to help him to do right no matter what he's taking or what direction. Did you all hear me? So, when you're going to marry somebody, do you know for sure what areas of temptation they have experienced or what they've gone through in their childhood? Who knows what molestation, what all kinds of influencing things they've gone through. It's called repressed memories, it's called scars, it's called all kinds of things. And when you're marrying this person, you're believing their testimony. They say that they love God and they're wanting to be godly and what all, and you believe them. Are you supposed to probe to find out every possible thing? Now, some of you are just have huge curiosities, so you want to know everything they've ever done in their life. Well, quite frankly, you know, some of us aren't capable of handling too much information because the devil will cause it to eat us alive. You hear what I've said? Some people can handle a lot of information, say, hey, that's all under the blood, it's okay, doesn't bother me. And other people can say those same words and mean it, but they're wired differently, and so they constantly wonder. They wonder, I wonder if I satisfy you as much as these other guys or these other women satisfied you. And if you have this insecurity about you, knowing too much stuff can really be destructive. Do you hear me, students? So be careful what you probe to find out about who you're going to marry. On the other hand, don't be a fool and make the wrong choice. Whoa, you say, whoa, 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 how do I balance that? Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Those are all things that have to factor into your decision who you're going to marry. You understand? Those are hard things. So, I can tell you sad stories about people who, because romance diminishes after you're married. You're not trying, the guy is not pursuing a girl as a conquest, as to win her hand and to win her heart and to win and woo. He has won and wooed and bedded and satisfied his curiosity. You've gotten acquainted. You're together, you're shared, everything's intimate, you know more about a person than you want to know sometimes. You know their good habits, their bad habits, you know what things you like and what things are a bit repulsive. You just know all kinds of things. You can never really know if you're going to be a godly person while you're dating. You can't know these things. Now, when you get married, nobody, I think, if they're Christians, goes looking to be unfaithful. Nobody. It happens slowly, accidentally, subtly, unawares. It begins with trying to help someone, trying to encourage someone, trying to be a counselor, it's a spiritual thing. It had nothing to do with any intentions of ever getting involved physically. And there's no more subtle way to get involved emotionally than spiritual nurturing and mentoring. This is why guys should not mentor girls. Girls shouldn't mentor guys. It's the key, it's the formula for emotional involvement and attachment that you never meant to happen. So this is the statement. Keep iron bars around your emotional attachment and affection. Iron bars. If you find yourself being drawn to someone who is not your partner, because they're fun, they're like, they're just a great person, you enjoy, you don't mean anything. Of course you don't mean anything bad. You always put it in the best light. But they light your life. You enjoy seeing them. And when they see you, their eyes light up and hey, whoa, beware. Beware, you are human. And that's how it always starts. No preacher runs off with his secretary by saying, hello, my name's Alan Brown. What's your name, Sarah? Sarah, let's run off and have sex. What Christian preacher, Christian, how do people get entangled? Inch by inch by inch by inch by inch by inch by inch, and the devil causes problems at home. Hurt feelings, unfulfilled expectations, unhappiness, discontent, makes you vulnerable. Do you hear me, students? Happens to everybody. Happens to everybody. Most people aren't secure enough in their marriage to talk about it. It happens to everybody. You've got to nip it in the bud. Because you can be involved emotionally and intellectually without ever touching the other person physically, wrongly involved emotionally, attached, dependent upon someone right up there. That's wrong. That's wrong. So, when you're dating, when you're prior to marriage, you're actors. Remember this, you are actors, A-C-T-O-R-S, on the stage. No, this is me, this is just me. No, you're actors on the stage. You're going to, if you have any sensitivity, any kind of training, you're going to be the most thoughtful, the most attentive, the most tuned in. Your eyes are going to search out for the other person's eyes in a crowd. You're going to be looking for them. You're going to be calling them. You're going to look for... that's all part of the magic and the fun and the excitement of dating. Hey man, wow. Why do you never see married couples texting each other and looking for everybody and just sitting like dating couples? Why don't you? Have you ever thought through that? That's what the opening about that book, The 5 Languages of Love, was trying to communicate to you when the guy said, what happens to love after marriage? It's a different ballgame. You remember thinking about going to college and how exciting that might be or whatever, and you didn't know and you had expectations, and then you come to college, and now you've been here in college. Was it exactly like you imagined? It's different. You're not thinking, I want to go to college someday. I wonder what's going to... You're not having those thoughts at all. You're here. You're bummed out with all the work. You're glad for every break that comes along. You're worn out. That wasn't what you envisioned before you... Was it? No. You had no clue. You couldn't have envisioned it. You had no experience to envision it. No, this is a different realm. That's the way it is with marriage. It's not you don't love the person, students. No, I sat, I heard marriage things, I heard preachers, and I sat as a student, and I thought, I listened, and I understood what they were saying, but I was going to be the exception to the rule. I purposed it. Aren't you going to be the exception to the rule? If you're not, God, let people know so they'll never marry you. You're going to be the exception to the rule. You're going to be the most wonderful wife a man's ever had. And you're going to be the most wonderful husband a woman's ever had. Well, I was going to be the most wonderful husband. And guess what? Somehow or other, my wife didn't think I was the most wonderful man who ever lived. And that really hurt me. It's the difference between perceptions. And you think you're going to be a loving, thoughtful, good wife. Well, I surely hope you think you're going to be that. But you know what? What you think that involves is probably not what the guy you marry thinks is involved in a loving, good, and great wife. And if you bring your job description of what a good wife is to the marriage, and it doesn't match up with his description of a good wife, he's not impressed. And you can be mistidy and clean and keep everything spotless, and if that doesn't mean anything much to him, doesn't mean anything much to him. To me, oh, that's cool, that's nifty, boy, that's valuable. To other guys, not a big deal. Degree of sloppiness, tidiness, untidiness, man, that's much better than how they lived in the squalor of their room. Boy, yeah, that's fabulous. And if you have everything perfect, you're a neat freak in their mind. If that's what turns her on, fine. But is she going around saying, oh, honey, I value your cleaning skills. I know you work hard, and I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your labor of love. Well, that's what you'd like to hear. But chances are, if that's meaningless to him, you won't ever hear it from him. You won't. You'll hear about what you haven't done that he was expecting you to do. And isn't that joy to the world? Don't you get tired of being criticized? Just wait. You'll get tired of not being appreciated for what you do because it's not on the radar. And you'll hear about what you didn't do. And you'll take that until your bottle is full. And then the cork will blow. That's what big time problems are all about. And it's not because a guy is meaning to be unthoughtful and careless. His brain is wherever his brain is. And it's not where you want it to be a lot of times. But you married him. You married him. Tough luck. You didn't have to marry him. Remember his beautiful hair. And dream about it. You'll need something. Remember his wonderful physique. Now that he's got the big old sagging belly. You'll need something to remember because the things that can irritate you will grow to be mountains after you're married that you can overlook now. And you think, well, we'll work on that. Lots of you are fixers. You're take charge, do, and fix. You women are cruising for a bruising. Because lots of guys will act like they'll just go along, and on dating they'll go along until after they're married. And then when they've had enough, and they'll tell you they've had enough. Will you back off and let me be? Oh, you never said that when we were dating. Yeah, I was too smart to say that. Is that really true, Brother Brown? How come you never hear about this? Well, I don't know why. I guess people don't love you as much as I love you and want to protect you. Or maybe they don't know how to think about some of these things. Maybe they don't know how to articulate it. They've lived it. To marry with the idea that one will make changes in the spouse, you know, you're a lousy dresser, and you can't put stuff together. When we get married, I'll buy your clothes and dress you. Some men, that's fine. You just have another little kid to raise. They'll wear whatever you buy. You tell them, no, that doesn't look good. Go change your shirt. Put on that other tie. And they'll just do it because they don't care. Whatever you say. Do I have to wear a tie? Yes, this is important. All right. You've got an adult kid that you're supervising. If that's what you want, boy, that's what you'll get. Look at the other people who have their own opinion. Well, I don't like that. Well, I think it looks nice. Well, I'm glad you do. You can wear it. No, see, they're just not going to be putty in your hand, girls. Or guys. So the scientific approach of 792 married couples, the average being 11 years, approximately a third were college graduate. Now this is a good sized group to find out. And you know, how can I tell if the woman I'm thinking about marrying will be a happily married woman? And he gives you a list of 5 things. That, number one, does the girl you want to marry, does she have kindly attitudes toward others? Or is she always telling you about, look, did you notice the mismatched clothes on so-and-so? Did you notice this? They always see what's wrong. Don't marry a woman like that. They'll see what's wrong with you too. That's a critical spirit and a critical eye. Maybe it's been the way they've been trained. Maybe that's what happens in their home. You don't want to marry one of those. Anticipate kindness from others. Is that what they anticipate? They're not expecting devious stuff. Number 3, is the girl easily offended? Are you always having to walk on tiptoes? How you doing? Silence. What's wrong? Silence. Come on, honey. Did I hurt you in some way? Pow! Get out of here, woman! No, you never do that. I wouldn't either. That's drama. To wake some of you up. That's drama. But the point is, it gets old. You'll do that when you're dating. You won't do that after you're married. About 5 years after you're married, you just ignore her. She's upset again. Something must be the time of the month or something. What is it? Whatever it is, just leave her alone. And so you ignore her. And is that what the woman wants? No! But that's how lots of men cope. I think I'll go hunting. I think I'll go for a prey in the wood. Or whatever makes it sanctified to get away from you. Are they unduly concerned about the impression they make about others? If your wife is a competitive person and concerned about what other people think, you're in for trouble. She won't be happy to have people come over when you're poor and you don't have nice furniture and you don't have nice utensils and it's not as nice as the other people's, and she's unhappy and she just doesn't feel happy about bringing people over because she's embarrassed about how shabby everything. Thank God I didn't marry a woman like that. I married a creative woman who all we could afford was an apple box for bedside tables. It's all we could afford. We were doing good to have a stove, a refrigerator, a bed. Couldn't afford any bedside tables, so apple boxes. She took cardboard, nice thick cardboard, made around, went and bought some nice material, covered it over, made the beautiful end tables, gorgeous. People don't come in and look underneath and say, what kind of wood, what design? You smack them. Nobody could tell that there was. It was an apple crate, but it looked nice. My wife had some design characteristics. Now, if she hadn't, then I'd had to have some.
I would have done my best, and if neither of us had it, it wouldn't have looked as nice as it would have if one of us had design capabilities. There are some guys who are awesome interior decorators. I'm not one, but I happen to have it. I tell my wife, I think I'm very easy to live with. I'm a nice guy, I'm easy going. She says, you are, until you aren't. She says, you don't care until you do care. Now, isn't that the way all of us are? Where do you want to go for dinner tonight? Oh, I don't care. Which would you rather have? Hamburger patty or salmon patties? Oh, I don't care. Which would you rather have, lima beans or beets? Beets! Well, I thought we'd have lima beans. Well, you can have them. Well, suddenly I'm not so easy going, right? Isn't that the way we all are? I used to say to my wife, you know, such and such a woman, she is so quiet and unassuming. She said, don't let that fool you. Every woman is very strongly opinionated and under certain circumstances will very much express their opinion. Just that they don't do it out in public doesn't mean that they're not very strong-minded, opinionated women. Well, I begin to believe that. That is true. That is true. I was naive. I used to think if they didn't have much to say, they could lay back, easy going, doesn't matter. Well, they are, until it does. Right? And then you hear about it. That's the way it is. Don't look upon social relationships as rivalry situations. Thank God I married a woman who was this way. She was happy before she got married. Nice person. We had match stuff. We went to a furniture store. I said I had $500 for furniture. I need bedroom furniture for me and my wife. We need front room furniture. We need kitchen table and chairs. We need a refrigerator. We need everything. We don't have anything. He said, well, let's see what we can do. He walked back into the warehouse, stuff that wouldn't sell or whatever, and he didn't try to get stuff to match. And we ended up with French provincial end tables with a coffee table, French, very nice, with an early American couch with spots that the pattern hadn't matched, but I couldn't see that. She spotted it immediately, but that hadn't sold, with an early American chair in dark green, in green leather with a French provincial thing over here. You see the hodgepodge? And better than sitting on the floor. We were very happy to have it. We weren't trying to be in anybody's magazine. We were just happy to have, and when we invited people over, and we didn't say, please excuse our friend. I know it doesn't matter. My wife wouldn't say, and this rug, this braided rug thing is all we can afford. And one of these, none of that stuff. Because we weren't trying to impress anybody with what we had. Friends are for friends, not for show and brag. You understand? But if you're wired, that's very important, and you'd like to start off married with a house and decorations and stuff like your parents, whoever marries you will be in big time trouble, unless they got a lot of money. Happily married men have these characteristics: an even, stable, emotional tone. You guys get a guy who's melancholy, you're going to go for a ride. When he's up, he's fun. When he's down, he's down. And if he's too far down, then you have to be mama and encourage him to get up. You need to go to work, honey. You know, it'll be all right. You want to have a baby? Grown adult baby that you can admire. I think, I'm so proud of my man. He won't get up in the morning unless I beg him and insist. That a man is cooperative, shows an attitude toward women that reflects equalitarian ideal. Boy, don't marry a man who believes he's supposed to be the King Tut. Have a benevolent attitude toward inferiors, unprivileged. Tend to be self-conscious, somewhat extroverted. Now, you've got to know for the test what's the 3 top complaints of all of these happily married people. Number 1, selfishness. Selfishness is in the eye of the beholder. Ask somebody sometime who doesn't like you. Am I selfish? I'll tell you. You sure are. Don't ask somebody who likes you. No, you're not selfish. Because after you get married, you know. Where's the toothbrush? Oh, I couldn't find mine. It's in my drawer. You use my toothbrush? Why did you use a toothbrush? You know, we're married, don't we share everything? Oh, yucko! Germs! Well, what are you doing kissing me? What's this certain kind of kissing I hear about? Talk about germs. And you're going to freak out over a toothbrush? Oh, that's different. I know. It's all in the mind of the person, what they believe. Isn't it? Come on, students. Isn't it? I remember my wife telling me about her brother's wife using his toothbrush. It freaked him out so bad. I said, gross. My wife said, gross. We don't use each other's toothbrush. Oh, we don't mind kissing. Now, what's that? That's called, it's all in your mind. It's all in your mind. It's not germs. It's what you say is okay and what you say is not okay. It's right up there, isn't it? But that matters. What's up in there? It matters. It's number 2, complaining. Do we have to have green beans again tonight? Now, the person who's cooking, that's not a compliment. That was a simple question from the person who's not cooking. They didn't mean anything bad by it. Oh, no, not green beans again. They didn't mean anything bad by it. But the person who's cooking and trying to do the menu, that wasn't an attaboy, was it? Was it? Complaining. What are all these dust rolls under the bed, sweetheart? And then you hear the response. They're waiting for you, dear, to get them up and clean them out. Now, is that what a guy wants to hear when he asks his wife, what's all this dirt under the bed for? It's waiting for you, sweetheart, to clear out. Clean it. If you don't like it, do something about it. Oh, that's not how people want to hear stuff, is it? But that's typically what you'll hear. And then not affectionate enough. Hey, when you're not in the mood to cuddle, for whatever reason, you're not in the mood to cuddle. And is there something wrong with saying, I'm not in the mood? Yeah, there's something wrong with saying you're not in the mood in the other guy's ears. Who's in the mood? Oh, you're not affectionate enough. See there? So what's affectionate enough? That's the challenge of life. Some of these things, it's that's what you work on. Okay? Any questions on this study guide? How long before it gets old are you willing to be told you need to change? Change this, change that, change the other. Little change, big change, little slight change. Would you please not brush your teeth looking up in the mirror and leaving white spots? Or if you do that, would you please wipe them off? That's not bragging on you. That's criticizing you. I'm not criticizing. I'm just being nice. I'm just saying, please. That's a criticism. How many felt like that was being bragged on? And on, and on, and on it goes. To the little stuff. Students, this is why if you're not praying together, if you don't pray together, if you don't ask how are we doing? How are we doing means you still like me. Anything I'm doing that's been bugging you, please. If you don't have weekly checkups when you started in marriage, you assume everything's blissful. The other person says, "Oh, it's one, you're just awesome, no problem." That's generally not true. Just nothing they want to talk about, nothing they feel like they better talk about at this stage or something like that. There are always problems. Always. You need to talk about them. You need to care for each other. You need to both be concerned that you make the other person's life as happy as possible each way. Right? You hear me? Anything I'm doing that bugs you? No, and some people want to say no, 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 and you know that's not true. Don't you want to marry somebody who won't tell you the truth? I don't. No, it's okay. God's giving me grace. Isn't that what you want to hear? I'm praying about God's helping me to grow. I'm suffering silently over here. No, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to make you feel bad. God's program for marriage. What's the role of a husband in marriage? Our world says it's whatever you define it. It's not what God says. God says that the man is to bring up the children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So the primary responsibility for the well-being of the children, their education, their spiritual oversight, is not the role of the woman. Now that was a shocker to me because I grew up in America. And in America, in my family, my dad went out and worked, my mom stayed home. And it was up to my mom to make sure we went to school and oversaw us. My dad worked all day long. He came home worn out. And my mom managed the household. So I figured that what a man does is he has to earn the living so he can pay the bills, and the woman runs the household. And women are supposed to rear the children. Then I read the Bible. That's not what I read in the Bible. And I like the American model, quite frankly, because that way it's less responsibility on me. I'll go out and earn the living, come home, relax, and my wife fixes the meal and runs the household and supervises. And I'll go to bed, and I'll get up and go to work. The woman's supposed to do all this other stuff. I didn't find that in the Bible. I found out that the man is supposed to be responsible to not only love and make sure his wife is doing well spiritually. See, that's his first priority. After God, you choose to get married, guys. Your number 2 priority is your wife. You have children, that's number 3. And then work is how you take care of all those. And church is how you take care of those. Those are not priority 1 and 2. Those are your wife's spiritual well-being. She needs to go to church, so you go to church. You don't sit there and tired. The man sets the example. The man doesn't stay home, and the woman goes to church and takes the kid. Now, how many of you women want to be spiritual widows, married to a sinner man who you have nothing in common spiritually? You have physical commonality, no soul spiritual commonality. Lots of women end up that way. In Bible college, they were good guys were good Christians. You thought you married a good Christian. You need to check their history. Is this the first place they served God? Then they have no history. You're going to take a gamble. You don't know what's going to be the future. You may win, you may lose. Tanya came in talking to me about my nephew, Randy Brown. Randy Brown, he was a criminal. He was a terrible person. He goes to prison. He gets saved. He comes to school. He's saved. He's a new guy. New transformation. comes into my office. I approved her dating Randy. In fact, they blame me for the reason they're married. That's right. I put them together. And she said to me, how do I know? My parents are very worried about me dating Randy, that he just might backslide and go back to a world of sin and drugs and the whole thing of what. I said, yeah, that's right. That's just a possibility. You better count the cost. Now Randy would come in privately, what am I to do? Her parents don't trust me. And I said, they'd be fools to trust you. You don't have any record of trust, man. You've been a criminal all your life. They'd be insane if they trusted you. Now, there's just one of two things, Randy. They're either going to be right, you are a dud, and you'll fake it and marry their daughter and backslide, and they'll be 100% right, or they'll be 100% wrong, and you'll prove them wrong. And I said, the choice is up to you, dude. What are you going to do? Prove them right or wrong? Time will tell. Isn't that right? Now that's speaking the truth in love. I didn't put my head in the sand because he's my nephew. Oh, yes, you're a good boy. Oh, God did a wonderful work. Oh, yes. He did do a wonderful work. That doesn't mean Randy has to stay saved. He can backslide anytime he wants. Can he? Yes, he can. Well, how does she know he's not going to? She doesn't. Spooky. Scary. He hasn't. He's been serving God for 12, 14 years now. They were wrong, but there was no way to know that until history. So everybody who doesn't have a good history doesn't have to revert to prototype before they got saved. They don't have to. A lot of times they will. So you need to find out when they were a sinner, were they a nice sinner? It's far better to have a sinner husband or a sinner wife that was a nice sinner than a real bad sinner. Is that true? That's part of the caught in the cost. Worst case scenario, they backslide. What kind of a person were they before they got saved? That should go into the equation. Doesn't mean they're going to have to. But you factor in a lot of things, students, as you pray and get advice from people, and then decide whether or not you're going to take the risk. Because no matter who you marry, there is risk. I remember H.E. Schmidt telling me, riding in his car, talking about another nice couple got divorced. He said, you used to be if you married into good stock. You ever heard marrying into good stock phrase? I don't know if you ever, it's farm language, I guess. Well, I grew up hearing that. If you marry into good stock, in other words, you marry a girl or a guy from a good, godly family, then chances are this is good and the kid will turn out right. He said, not anymore. It doesn't matter who you marry, what stock you marry into, they're getting divorced. Well, that was his observation. I'm trying to pass something on to you, students. Don't live in a dreamland unless you wake up and find it is a real nightmare and it's your life. You be wise now. You gain all the insight you can now, all the knowledge, and don't bypass your God-given counsels. A woman is supposed to submit to a man in a marriage. It's not 50-50 or 100-100. The word submit is the word for military. Doesn't mean the sergeant that I'm a corporal under has more brains, more ability, more power, or anything. It just means he's my authority. And I'm supposed to submit to my authority. Now, girls, let me say something to you. Don't marry a man that's going to cause you to go to hell. Because you're rebelling against God's word that says submit. If you can't marry a man that's going to be kind and thoughtful and you can appeal to him, and he's not going to be bullheaded and self-centered, but he'll be reasonable and listen and want to do right by you. If you don't find a man like that, then you just might go to hell overriding the Word of God and saying, I don't have to do what He says when He's going. And you'll justify yourself right down to the pit. Well, how do you know whether the guy is going to be reasonable? Is he reasonable? Is he thoughtful? Does he have a reverse gear? Does he ask you your opinion? If he takes a stand, can you appeal to him? And will he negotiate? Now, if he's not that kind of a guy, don't marry him. Well, what about a woman, the guy says, who won't submit? Don't marry one of those. You say, I like a strong-minded woman. I like a woman who's self-possessed and knows what she thinks. Well, so do I. I don't want one that says, I don't care what you think. I don't agree, and it's not going to be that way. I don't want one of those. You don't either. So who are we looking for? We're looking for Mr. and Miss Perfect. They don't exist. You understand that? They don't exist. Any questions so far? What hope is there? What hope is there for a happy marriage? I'm telling you, there's a lot of hope if you have wisdom. What does wisdom hang around with? Knowledge, understanding, discernment, counsel. Yeah, you better have wisdom before you ask somebody to marry you. Learning to communicate wisely. Next 4 minutes, let me set the scene for the problem in communication. The problem in communication, students, is that none of us live in exactly the same world, the same reality. None of us. We live mostly in the same reality. And if I can diagram it like this, if I can make this rectangle, and everything inside this rectangle is reality. And everything outside this rectangle, from God's point of view, is la-la land. It's not reality. Now, God knows all reality. You and I, we, from our experiences, we have a little la-la land. That's called dreams. That's our, but then we have had these experiences, and this is our reality. And then we marry this person here, and here's their reality. Maybe they've traveled places we've never been. Maybe they've done other things that we haven't done. And our commonality is right here. This is where we see eye to eye because we have commonality. And guess what? We don't see eye to eye on just the majority of our world. My suggestion? Don't marry somebody that you don't have great overlap. Because it's much more difficult figuring out a harmonious, happy relationship from vastly different cultures. And you can be the same race and come from the same state and come from vastly different cultures. And you do Christmas different, you do Thanksgiving different, you have food traditions different, you do birthdays different, you do lots of things different than the other person did. Now, which way are you going to do it? Well, we never did it that way. We always did it this way. Well, I don't think that's the way that we ought to do it. I think we ought to do it well, who's going to win? Who's going to win? Do these things come up? What are we going to have for Christmas dinner? Turkey! I hate turkey. Ham! I hate ham. Then I can hear my dad say to me, I hate it. Expressions he said, I can still remember, I hate it. It's like you guys, you remember what you didn't like about me rather than what you liked. Just the way it goes. Oh man, we have to have this again. My dad would turn and say, son, if you don't like it, eat what you brought with you. He knew I didn't bring anything. I had nothing. It was his smart remark to say, shut up. You ever heard that one? You don't like it, eat what you brought with it? Well, write it down. Make your little kids mad. I don't say that to my grandchildren. I don't do anything that made me mad to them. You know? I don't want them to remember bad stuff about me.